Welcome to the Healthy Heart Show, where we pull back the curtain on conventional medicine and dive into the root causes of cardiovascular health. If you are concerned about high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart attacks, stroke, or atrial fibrillation, this is the place for you. We will provide natural heart information that will help you prevent, treat, and reverse any ailment, leaving pills and procedures out of the picture. Here are your guides to holistic heart health, board-certified cardiologist and Amazon best-selling author, Dr. Jack Wolfson, and natural heart doctor, naturopathic physician, Dr. Lauren Latanza.
All right, Dr. Jack Wolfson here, cardiologist. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Healthy Heart Show. And I'm truly honored to have a friend on the line. I've never met Dr. Ben in person, but he truly is a brother from another mother in the sense that we are really both on board and very aligned. And that's why Dr. Ben is here. So Dr. Ben Edwards, Veritas Medical, welcome.
Hey, Jack, thanks a lot for having me today. It's an honor to be on your podcast.
Well, it's an honor to have you on because you are literally changing the lives of thousands and thousands of people in your community down in the great state of Texas. And you've been kind enough to refer me some of your patients for cardiovascular issues when needed. And I want to thank you for that and your trust and faith in me. But, ultimately, we got a lot going on in order to awaken everybody to holistic health and wellness. But if you would kind of share some of your origin story and what made you change over to the good side.
I'll be happy to, and I agree. There's a lot of work to be done, and that's really what launched me into this. I mean, originally I grew up in Central Texas in kind of a small town. Both my granddads were medical doctors, GPs, old school GPs. They did everything. They could do surgeries, deliver your babies, from nursing home to cradle to grave kind of deal, house calls, all that kind of stuff. So I grew up watching these guys kind of doctor the whole community, and it was awesome. And they really impacted the whole community in a very positive way. And so I thought that's what I want to do. I just could never get peace with going into any other field. I mean, I actually tried to. I changed my major 5 times in undergrad, looking for some other way out of this thing because I saw medical school is hard to get into. Once you're in, it's going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of time, the debt that you come out with, just all that. But at the end of the day, it was clear I was supposed to go to medical school. So I did. Undergrad was at Baylor, med school at UT Houston, the Texas Medical Center, MD Anderson, did most of my rotations there. So that's an amazing institution of higher learning from a conventional mindset. And that's all I knew. I didn't know anything but allopathic. My great-granddad was a MD. 2 of my uncles are MDs. I didn't even know what a chiropractor did. I didn't know what homeopathic even meant. I mean, literally zero. But I went to school to help people. I saw my granddads help people. Interesting, though, they pulled me aside when I told them I'm going to med school. I want to be like y'all. I want to be a small-town country doctor. And they both told me, you're going to need to be willing to listen to people. That's the main thing they need. And you better bring your counseling or psychology books for med school into that small town you end up in and they both said that, found that, I kind of side note, put that away. But anyways, UT Houston, graduated there, went to Waco Family Practice because they trained doctors to set the broken bones, do the colonoscopies, deliver the babies, do the C-sections, kind of be that small town do-it-all doctor. So Waco was great. It's one of the top FP, family practice programs in the country. I was chief resident there, not because I was the smartest guy, but I'm kind of a nice guy. I could get along with everybody and keep the team together. So left there, went to Garza County, a little county out in West Texas. Total population for the county was about 6,000. They did not have a doctor in the whole county, and the surrounding counties even did not have a physician. There was a county clinic there. A hospital that shut down. County clinic was kind of limping along with a nurse prac there a couple days a week, losing money every month. Taxpayers were making that difference up. So my wife and I felt like we need to be there for the community. They needed a doctor. So we went there, and it was great. Spent 7 years there. Not bragging on myself, but because the community got behind us and supported us. But we were able to take that clinic from losing $10,000 a month to making more than that a month. They got them out of the red into the black. So the taxpayers were off the hook. The tax money could sit there and build up in the taxpayer account, and it did, to the tune of $1 million was in the healthcare district's bank account. And the clinic was self-sufficient based off volume. So one thing Waco Family Practice also taught me was the business side. And you crank through them 7-minute visits, and you combo those visits. You do procedures and you do, talk about the diabetes, fine, get paid a little bit for that, but then cut out an ingrown toenail, cut off a sebaceous cyst, freeze a mole, pick earwax out of the ear. I got paid like $125 from Medicare for picking earwax. Anything I did with my hands, I got paid more, and I learned that. They taught me that. So we were able to financially turn things around. We're in the top 95th percentile of all clinics in America on the finance side. So they built a new clinic, brand new clinic. Then the Washington Post came down. I don't know how they got the word about us, but they came to Post, Texas, sent a reporter and a photographer to follow me around for a week. And I'm painting a picture here for the audience that I was living my dream. So, front page, Washington Post, then a TV station called, wanted to do a reality TV show. We said no to that. But so brand new clinic, $1 million in the healthcare district's bank account. We front page of the Washington Post. We got fame, fortune, everything's going great. Every month we get the financials coming in from corporate, and they're just saying, man, this clinic's blowing it out of the water. I'm getting puffed up with pride. But 7 years into this, kind of started scratching my head a little because nobody was getting well. And I knew I was doing what I was supposed to do. I'm a highly trained physician, UT Houston, Waco Family Practice, top programs in the country. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but no one's getting well. And I'm just adding medicine all the time. And I mean, like diabetes, I give them metformin, their sugar would come down for a while, stabilize, but eventually a year or two down the road, I'm increasing the dose and I'm adding a second agent and a third agent. And by the way, now I've got heartburn, I've got hypertension, and I'm just adding meds all the time in 7-minute visits. And then a 7-year-old in Garza County, I diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, adult onset diabetes in this obese 7-year-old. Right about that time, my nurse practitioner who had celiac disease went to a bed and breakfast, a getaway weekend with his wife. At the bed and breakfast, this was in Amarillo, Texas, the innkeeper said, hey, because he told the innkeeper, I've got celiac, I need a gluten-free pancake. And she said, oh, I can do that. She said, but there's a doctor here that could help you with that, could reverse that, cure you of that. And my nurse practice said, no, you don't cure celiac. And anyways, the lady kept pestering him. So he, to be polite, basically said, all right, let me talk to this doctor. And so they conversed for about 4 hours. This doctor convinced him that you could steward your GI tract and steward your whole body, really, and maybe you can put this thing into remission. He convinced my nurse practitioner to make some diet and lifestyle changes. My nurse prac did that over a 3 to 4 month period. And he didn't tell me he was doing this, but I could see my nurse prac was getting healthy. He trimmed up a little bit. He wasn't overweight, but trimmed maybe 10 pounds off. His complexion improved, his energy improved. You could just see vitality coming out of him. He told me his personal times on his bicycle riding, he was a competitive rider, were improving. And then he came to me 3 or 4 months into all this and said, hey, doc, I'm cured of celiac. And I'm like, you're crazy, get back to work. And I didn't believe him. And then he said, okay, I'll prove it to you. He went to the break room, got a breakfast burrito, one the drug reps had brought, and ate it, the tortilla, of course, with gluten. Then he went and got a hamburger at lunch, ate the bun. Then he got some cookies another drug rep had brought that afternoon. He ate 3 things that one day, and he came to work the next day and was totally fine. Normally he'd be in the bathroom with diarrhea and cramps and all that. And so at that moment, and looking back, that was kind of the pivotal moment. I looked at that thing and said, either that was just some crazy miracle one-off kind of thing, or maybe there's something to what he did. And for my next celiac patient, am I going to just say, hey, eat gluten-free the rest of your life? That's what I learned at MD Anderson to do. Or, hey, talk to my nurse prac. I don't know what he did, but you may want to implement some of the things he did and see what happens. And I decided that was the way to go. I needed to offer the 2 options. So then I called the doctor in Amarillo and said, what are you doing? Who are you? What's going on? What's all this craziness? And he told me in probably the first 5 minutes of our phone call, he said, Ben, there's no such thing as diseases. They're all consequences. And they happen to have all come over the past 100, 120 years. And I just rose up and in my mind thinking, you are nuts. And I grabbed my patient list from the day, 40 patients I'd seen that day, and I just went right down the list. Ulcerative colitis, asthma, diabetes, depression, fibromyalgia, lupus, all the patients I'd seen that day. And I said, no such thing as diseases. What do you think all those are? And he said, no, they're consequences. He said, go Google every one of those diseases with the word inflammation next to it. And you'll see a connection between every disease and inflammation. And he said, that's the common denominator. And what drives inflammation is diet and lifestyle. So anyways, I went back and forth with him for about really a year. I could not accept the fact that what he was saying could be true, or else it couldn't be true, because I would have learned it in med school. They would have taught me in medical school if that were true, is what I was thinking for a good year. And I just went back and forth with him. And finally, the straw that broke the camel's back for me was he said, send me your 10 sickest patients, the ones that have been to all the specialists. They've been to, Dallas, to UT Southwestern. They've been everywhere. So I sent him my worst lupus patient, worst diabetic that needed insulin and refused it, chronic prostatitis that wouldn't resolve, ulcerative colitis that couldn't get under control, all these different 10 sick patients. And they all came back well. Most of them all the way well, like off their meds, blood sugar normal, not diabetic anymore. And those 10 patients were my patients. For 7 years in Garza County, I'd seen these guys. I knew these guys, went to church with them, lived with them. I knew these people. I knew they weren't lying. I knew their medical history. I had prescribed most of those medications that they were now off of. And that was it. That was the moment where I said, this is true. And the fact that my intellectual mind and my professional training, I can't reconcile that cognitive dissonance, But bottom line, I went to med school to help people. These 10 people are well, and they did it through techniques that I didn't learn in school. But bottom line, they're well. I'm going to learn this. I'm going that way. And that was it. So
the person you're speaking of course, the physician that you serendipitously encountered or preordainedly encountered in order to keep you on your path of where you needed to go, was the late Dr. Roby Mitchell. And, Dr. Roby was a dear friend of mine, and he's how you and I got connected. And there are so many people who Dr. Roby Mitchell touched their lives, certainly from a patient standpoint, but also from a practitioner standpoint. He impacted so many. And then, of course, you and I, as practitioners, the downstream effects, of that. It's like your two grandfathers guiding you where you needed to go and tell you that you needed to listen to people. And yes, in part of your listening, there was also the psychiatry aspect of how we deal with people, and not psychiatry as far as pills and whatnot and pharmaceuticals, but a matter of, listening and finding out how we can help people with emotional and mental wellness. But Dr. Roby was very impactful on my life, my wife's life, and really that was such an incredible thing. Now, so from there, after you have this epiphany moment of where you've been is just not the right place. And the places you've been to, Texas Heart Institute, like that's where open heart surgery was invented with, DeBakey and Denton Cooley. And just, it's, and what's amazing too, Dr. Ben, is that I spoke there a few years ago. They had an integrative healthcare symposium, and the fact that they had integrative in there was really a miracle, considering where that place comes from. And as you said, the revenue generation. So you're very successful personally, professionally, but then you have the epiphany moment. And then where do you go from there? And maybe what did I don't know, did you have any colleagues who thought differently of your move?
Yes, I did. But so from there, where I went directly was to the Garza County Hospital Board, just to give them a heads up that I'd learned this thing that was really helping people. But what I could clearly see, these visits take 1 to 2 hours, not 7 minutes. And so I gave them a heads up that if a patient requested trying to get to the root of a problem and fix it, that I was going to grant them that, and I was going to give them an hour. So I just told the board, if enough people request this, obviously revenue generation is going to go down. It's not going to work. So we got to figure something out. I kind of came up with this plan to bring in another doctor to do, conventional running through like cattle. I could do the nutritional stuff, and that plan just wouldn't jive financially. So they asked me to leave, and that was kind of a shocking moment on a Friday afternoon. They said be out by Monday morning. Because I'm a real stay in the lines kind of guy. Never got in trouble growing up. Never even went to detention in school. Just follow the rules. People pleaser, really, what it boiled down to, which isn't good. Since I've learned that, but so that was like a shock. Whoa, got fired. But at the same time, a part of me was like, man, I am free. I am totally free. I called my wife. I said, babe, meet me at the clinic. Bring the truck. We got to load up our stuff. We got to be out by Monday morning. And so we took a week off just to decompress and kind of celebrate, actually. Went to a used office store, got a desk, 2 chairs, and a laptop, and went downtown Post, Texas, Garza County, the seat of the county there, Post, named after C.W. Post. That's another story. But went and rented out a room from actually the Farm Bureau insurance agent. Had an extra room, 12 by 12 room, $100 a month. So I'm in this whole thing for like $500. I'm ready to go. Hung up my own shingle. Called Roby. Said, "Hey, Roby, what should I charge?" I mean, the business side, I didn't have a clue. He's like, "Well, I charge $500 for a new visit, $250 for a follow up." This was 10 years ago. He said, "But you can't do that. You don't know what you're doing, really." I mean, it was kind of funny. And it was true. Like, I'm going to start this thing. I don't really know what I'm doing. But of course, he was guiding me and teaching and encouraging me all along. He was awesome having Roby there walking with me. But it was early there where I just felt in my spirit, man, that the body's designed perfectly. It knows what to do. If the first heart attack in America was in 1912, and before that there were none, the body knows how to keep itself from having a heart attack. It knows how to keep sugar normal, blood pressure normal, and everything else. If we give it what it needs, avoid what it doesn't. And that's what you believe, everyone believes in this field, I think. But like, I took that to heart. Like, I'm going to double down on this diet and lifestyle thing where eat like your ancestors, basically get up and move, get some sun. And that's where these 4 pillars came to be: nutrition, hydration, movement, and peace. That I just started educating people on those 4 things. And then, we can dabble, get into this integrative, different protocols, supplements, IVs, whatever. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is these 4 pillars. We're going to educate you hardcore on that. We're going to walk with you and encourage you in those things. If we need to pull from some of these integrative techniques, I call it the green version of symptom management, to a degree, but there is a time and place to supplement things in there. Of course, where the diet's deficient in particular, and some targeted therapeutics. But so from the beginning, 10 years ago, education is where I camped out. And from there, it just grew, word of mouth. So now we've got 3 locations across Texas. I've got a number of nurse practitioners under me, mid-level providers, a lot of wellness navigators, which are health coaches. And so we're just trying to educate West Texas, Eastern New Mexico. Of course, you know how it is. People get the word from all over the region and even across the country. And so it has been a blessing to be able to reach a lot of people with the truth. A lot more ears need to hear it. And actually COVID's kind of opened a lot of those eyes and ears up. So that's an opportunity there too. But yeah, it's been a great ride. 10 years, of course, meeting folks like yourself and being able to refer to people. I mean, just this morning, I had a physician assistant call me from Midland. Hey, who was that cardiologist I remember you telling me about years ago? And of course, it was you. So be looking for a referral from Midland, Texas. But it's great to know that there's other practitioners. It's really this community of like-minded folks that just believe the body was made to function, and it is. It was and is. We just have to steward it.
The Healthy Heart Show will be right back after we take this quick break to hear from our sponsor. Would you like to drink great tasting coffee that's also good for your heart health? Cardiology Coffee is your answer. This 5-star rated coffee is delicious. It's a gourmet coffee that begins with whole organic beans, hand-selected and carefully roasted. It's tested and certified to be free of pesticides, mold, and other toxins. Cardiology Coffee is great for your heart, and you're going to love how it tastes. Order now online at cardiologycoffee.com. Now back to the Healthy Heart Show.
Yeah, most certainly. Those are all just such fantastic points. And again, kudos to you for stepping outside of the box, because obviously I did it and it certainly wasn't easy. And there were a lot of people who were against what I was trying to do. I tried to make changes like you did on the inside of the group. And what you quickly find out is that if you're not making money for them,
Yeah.
you're not going to be part of the process very quickly. And I think other practitioners who try to start integrative programs at places like the Cleveland Clinic and the Mayo Clinic, they quickly made their way out of there because it's all an insurance-based volume revenue, producing entity, and
Yeah.
it's not easy to do what we did.
The first question I got, I didn't mention in that when I went to the board, I said, listen, guys, people are getting healthy, like the reflux, gastric, it's gone, hypertension resolved. The first question one of the board members asked me, and I mean, this is a nice guy. I mean, I went to church with them, about my age. All these guys are my patients. But I mean, they're an elected board to steward the taxpayer money, and that clinic had struggled for 10 years losing money. So they're all about the financials every month at the meeting. And he said, so you're telling me people's cholesterol is going to get normal, so they're off their meds. They don't have to come back every 3 months for blood work to look at their liver and their cholesterol. And I said, yeah, that's right. They're not going to come back. They're going to be well. That was the only question they posed to me. And I mean, you could see the writing on the wall. And that guy's not evil. He's not part of this pharmaceutical cabal. He's just a regular farmer in a small community in West Texas. It's just the mindset is so just in that system that it's a business. It is an absolute, and that was a moment right there when he asked me that, and I knew it was a business. But once you see that other side that people can get well, and of course you start doing the deep dive into where'd all this come from? And you trace it all back and you see all the natural healing modalities that have been with us for centuries. And that Flexner report in the early 1900s, when Carnegie and Rockefeller got together, boom, all the medical curriculum was standardized to that allopathic model. Everybody else was demonized. And that's it. I mean, it's been 100 years of downhill as far as outcomes. And the beautiful thing now, I've kind of been introduced to some CEOs of different companies because corporate wellness is a big deal. And you show these CEOs the hard data. Hey, statins are going to get you a 0.8% mortality benefit. Add 3 days to your life, maybe 3 or 4 days for every 5 years you take them, and it's $1 trillion industry. Chemo is going to add to 5-year survival, maybe 1%. And you start showing them hardcore numbers, we get the worst health outcomes of anybody in the world, of the industrialized countries. We're dead last. And I tell them, guys, this is like here locally, Texas Tech University, given the highest athletic budget to the football team. They get the most money of any athletic department in the country. They get the #1 recruiting class every year and the best facilities in the country, and then come in dead last in the Big 12 every year. No, nobody's going to put up with that. But we put up with it in the healthcare industry. And when these CEOs see that, and they see their second biggest expenditure after salaries is health insurance, and they're spending $3 million every year on Blue Cross Blue Shield for what? For last place, for 0.8% mortality benefit. I mean, these guys are connecting the dots and saying, I'm out. Let's figure something else out, especially since COVID. I think they've woken up. So it's a prime opportunity for the truth.
I think in a lot of those people too, what I like to point out is that not only can we save you on the front end, but we make you money on the back end because your workers are healthier, they are happier. And when they are healthier and happier, they are better workers. Your brain is clear, your body is functioning, right? You talk about somebody with celiac. How can you be a productive worker when you've got celiac and you're constantly in the bathroom with bowel movements? Or any of these different things where everybody has this sense of fatigue, and they've got anxiety, they've got stress, they've got all these different factors that inhibit their productivity. And it's not about how to make better assembly line workers, although we make better assembly line workers. It's about doing the right thing, but also when we do the right thing, people are just better, right? We're better in our marriages, we're better parents, we're better spouses, we're better friends, we're better members of the community, and we're better workers.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a win-win-win, and that's when you know you're onto the truth. And that's what I told a local CEO here, and he was doing it for the right reason. He actually, and this is public, he's given his testimony, stage 4 pancreatic cancer diagnosed. And previous to this, he was a standard American milk duds, Coca-Cola kind of guy. His wife was a patient of ours, very in line with taking care of her health. And then stage 4 pancreatic, and he went to the local folks here who are great doctors, great surgeon. The surgeon opened him up to do a Whipple, closed him right up, didn't do it because the tumor was wrapped around an artery or something. Just told him, sorry, there's nothing we can do really. Go enjoy your last remaining days. This was 23 months ago now. Gave him a couple months to live. So then Rick came, and I sent him to a colleague down in Cancun, Dr. Tony Jimenez, Hope for Cancer, and incredible results. So Rick comes back with this revelation of, man, the truth out there, not only personally for him, benefited him greatly. He wants all his people to be benefited by this truth. And so he's doing it for the right reason. But yeah, he sees the numbers too. So they're moving to a self-funded plan. They're actually going to make Hope for Cancer a preferred provider on their self-funded insurance plan. So any employee that gets cancer, that's an option. If they want to do that, present the data, give them the choice, and go to MD Anderson if they want. So these guys, I mean, again, doing it for the right reason, for the benefit of their people. And yeah, the finances will follow and everything else. And it's beneficial for the doctor too. It's a win-win-win all the way around.
I love when it's the win-win-win for the good guys, and I love when it's a lose-lose for the bad guys, which again would be just not necessarily condemning all pharmaceutical companies, because we both agree that there is a time and a place for pharmaceuticals, typically in an emergency, situation, in a trauma situation. But that being said, all of this, as you said, all the chronic disease, if we can get rid of those labels, those diagnoses with our methodologies of eating the right foods and the healthy lifestyle and the healthy thoughts, that's going to be the best strategy. And we have to be allowed to question everything. And I love where you talk at this, or like, hey, listen, let's present people with the options, and let's actually, I mean, again, let's, we can say, because you and I are not going to be the best to be able to present the chemotherapy option to a metastatic pancreatic cancer patient. But we can say, hey, listen, let's just have an open conversation. Go get an opinion from this conventional medical doctor, and then come over here to Veritas or Natural Heart Doctor and let us give you our opinion. And then, and only then, should you be able to make a decision, right? I mean, you typically, when you do research on a car, on a house, on your trip of where you're going to stay, right? All these different vacation things, we study all these things, but for some reason, we think that we should go into the medical doctor's office, get that one opinion that is literally a life or death opinion, and then just accept that as gospel and then move on. I think now, certainly post COVID, we are now more informed than ever. The conversations have to happen more than ever, and the freedom to choose is more important than ever.
Yeah, amen. I concur 100%. And what I tell patients, especially new patients or people calling that don't understand what we do, I think they're where I was, which was under this assumption. When I walked across that stage at UT Houston, got my diploma, MD behind my name, I'm now Dr. Edwards. I had the assumption that MD Anderson and everybody there at UT Houston just taught me everything that there is to know to help you, the patient. Well, aren't we the best? Aren't we the greatest institution of healthcare here in America? And that was this assumption, and it was wrong. And that's where most doctors are at, unfortunately, and patients are too. So they feel like, oh, I'm going to go get my opinion from my doctor because he's the best. And then when you pull back that curtain and show them, no, here's the outcomes. These outcomes aren't the best. And here's the data. I mean, it's just the hard facts. But even doctors, I think, don't even, because I go give presentations, I'll have doctors come up to me and say, I didn't know any of that. I didn't know statins, that was the real outcome data, absolute risk reduction, and same with chemo and these different things. So we're under these assumptions, and that got us into trouble with COVID. People putting all this blind hope, trust, and faith, and not understand these pharmaceutical companies I don't have the data in front of me, but they've paid out millions and billions in fines and criminal judgments, not civil, criminal. I mean, you look at some of these court cases where Pfizer and Merck and some of these guys, I mean, we're talking repeat offenders, huge criminal fines, convictions, but no one knows that. So we're under these assumptions. They're false assumptions. So just bring in the truth and then, present the data. If Hope for Cancer gets 34% 5-year survival on stage 4 pancreatic and MD Anderson gets 1%, hey, you might want to look into it. Not everyone wants to travel to Mexico. That's fine. If you had a good life, 1% is good for you. That's fine. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to try to coerce you. Here's the data. You choose. Informed consent. And that's what we haven't seen really across the board, but definitely COVID highlighted that.
Yeah, I love Tony Jimenez, Hope for Cancer. What a great man. Dr. Ben Edwards, again, this is, your origin story is absolutely fantastic. Kudos to you, for doing, what you've done. What an amazing background with 2 grandfathers who are both medical doctors. And I love the old school mentality because, my father was a cardiologist as well. And he certainly wasn't, of that generation. He was our parents' generation. And, to that end, he was never like a big pharmaceutical pusher. And your granddads, were not pharmaceutical pushers because they didn't have a lot in the toolbox. It was kind of old time remedies and really more of kind of like this emergency trauma type work. Presumably the people of that generation, they didn't have the chronic illness that everybody has today. Of course, the obesity wasn't there and the diabetes wasn't there to any significant degree, and natural remedies of what they had. And no, they're not, they probably weren't to the extreme, obviously, that you and I are. But, just that genuine belief that doctor means to teach, and doctors, can really assist in the healing process. And now, where we stand today, they're just glorified pharmacists. They're just pill pushers. And I'm just glad that you and I are on the same team to get the truth out. And, thank you again for being on the Healthy Heart Show.
Well, you're welcome. And thank you for having me too. That's a real honor. I know you've done incredible work, continue to do incredible work. I'm going to have you back on my show too. I've had some requests for a repeat interview with you, but it's a blessing. It's been the biggest blessing in my life the last 10 years, being able to walk in more truth and really being able to help people just, as you are. So very fulfilling. So thanks for the invitation. Thanks for all you do. Look forward to more chats in the future.
You got it. We'll put all Dr. Ben's contact information for his 3 offices in West Texas. And if you know anyone in those areas, I know that population definitely needs assistance, like every area does. But, most certainly, if you're going to look for the best in primary care and holistic health and wellness, you're going to go to Dr. Ben Edwards at Veritas Medical and his team over there. So for Dr. Ben Edwards, I'm Dr. Jack Wolfson, cardiologist. We'll see you back next time with another episode of the Healthy Heart Show.
That does it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Healthy Heart Show. Please help us get the word out by liking and subscribing to our podcast and our Facebook page, Natural Heart Doctor. Please show support for our podcast sponsor, Cardiology Coffee, your resource for organic, antioxidant-rich, mold and pesticide-free coffee shipped straight to your door. Learn more by adding @Cardiology Coffee on Instagram and visiting cardiologycoffee.com. This podcast provides materials for information and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. We encourage you to contact your physician for any of the health issues discussed here.